Every parent should must watch this and be careful what goes on in their homes. In a small town called Icona Town, there lived a little boy named Amiko. He was just 8 years old, and he lived with her parents, Mr. Bisi and her mother, Ada. Amiko is a very handsome boy who had a handsome smile, but unfortunately he never got to smile because he was not happy in her own parents' home. It all began one day when her parents decided to go for a trip and they couldn't leave Amiko all alone by himself in the big house. Ada decided to employ a maid provided by the agency. Her name is Anita, a young and seemingly harmless maid, to care for Amiko. Anita is a girl in her early 20s. Anita's warm smile and gentle demeanor hid her dark intentions. She quickly gained Amiko's trust, but her kindness was a facade, and with time her intention was revealed. One day Amiko was in his room. Anita, the maid, walked in. She said to Amiko, "I want to show you what it means to be a man, but you must not tell anybody. It is a secret. Make sure you don't tell anyone." Little Amiko, a child, did not know what her nanny Anita meant, but he trusted her. Of course, it is her maid, and he trusted whatever Anita said. Anita started touching and having intimacy with Amiko, the 8-year-old boy. She forced herself on the little boy like a possessed human being, and he will always cry, shouting, "Auntie Anita, please stop. I don't want to do this anymore. It's scary," but Anita would not listen. Amiko didn't understand what was happening because of his immature mind to understand. Anita tells him to calm down, that she will take care of him, but instead he only felt a sharp pain. Anything Anita does, the thing that scared him, and it was hurting him. He ran away most times, but Anita will always catch him. And at 8 years old, Amiko was traumatized. And now you must be wondering the reason why Amiko's parents are not always there or aware what their son is going through at the hands of Anita, the maid. So stick with me with this story. Mrs. Ada is an importer of all kinds of wigs, collections of hairstyles for women, and also collections of all kinds of cloth in the city, where everyone comes to buy from her at wholesale prices because she imports original wigs. She always travels a lot to inspect her goods before arriving at her shop. She was so into her business that she never cared to know what was happening in her home. On the other hand, Mr. Bisi, Amiko's father, is an accountant and good businessman who travels a lot and all the time. He is not always at home. Business takes him places far from home. Mrs. Ada and Mr. Bisi never knew what Amiko had been going through in the house. Anita had the time to commit the atrocities she's committing because she was always at home alone with Amiko, all in the name of taking care of him. Mrs. Ada was sitting on the dining table calculating and writing down a ledger of all her incoming goods, as usual, and that is all she cared about. Then Amiko, her son, walked up to her and said, "Mommy, why does Auntie Anita hurts me when you are not around?" Amiko's voice was small and trembling, but his mother didn't even look at him as she focuses on the pile of papers spread across the dining table. Ada was a very good businesswoman, always focused on her business, goods, and money. Nothing else mattered, and she responded to Amiko's question. "Amiko, please not now," as she flips through her ledger. Her attention was fixed on the numbers. "Can't you see that Mom is busy? You know how hard I work to make sure we have enough for you not to worry about. Just go and do your homework." But Mom, desperate for someone to listen to him. "Amiko," I said, "I am busy, and you know that your father isn't around, so please allow me to finish up what I'm doing." As she snapped, finally looking up, her eyes flashing with impatience. "You always bring up silly things when I'm trying to work, so go to your room." Amiko swallowed hard, his words dying in his throat. He wanted to scream to beg his mother to hear him, but he knew it was pointless. His mother never listened, never seemed to care about anything but her business. So Amiko turned quietly and went to his room, his heart heavy with a secret he was forced to carry alone. Anita was always monitoring Amiko in order not to reveal the secret to her mother or father. Anita went to Amiko's room to check up on him. As she entered, Amiko saw her and was afraid. "Amiko, I told you not to tell your parents about our secret, because if you do, I'll make sure you never see them again." Amiko's heart raced. He felt a chill run down his spine, his voice trembling. Anita's eyes gleamed with malice and with a devilish look. "You'll find out soon enough. Just remember, silence is your best friend." Amiko's innocence was shattered. He felt trapped and scared. Each time his parents were not around, Anita continued to sneak into Amiko's room every night, and whenever Madame Ada went to the shop, Anita always had her way with her son, teaching him what the boy is not supposed to know at his age or do. She would always tell Amiko to keep it a secret, that he was only trying to make him feel like a man. And Amiko would always say, "Auntie Anita, but it is always painful down there. I don't like it. I'm going to tell Mommy and Daddy." Anita would always shout at Amiko, "If you tell anybody, you will die. Do you want to die?" And out of fear, innocent Amiko will say no, and he will keep it to himself. But deep down, he needs someone to talk to. He needed attention. He needed someone to express his pains and feelings to. Each time he wanted to talk to his father or mother, they always neglect him. Ada never gave him a listening ear. It was as if he was all alone in the world. His father, who was supposed to be protecting and also listens to him, is always on business trips, handling businesses across the cities. One evening, Amiko was sitting at the staircase crying. His eyes swollen, he had gone to her mother again, hoping and praying that this time Ada would listen, but she had ended like all the other times. "Mom, can I talk to you? It's about Auntie Anita," Amiko had whispered, his hands trembling as he gripped the edge of the table where Ada was counting her money. Ada didn't even look up. "What is it now, Amiko? You are always complaining about something." Amiko's heart pounded in his chest. "It's about what Auntie Anita does when you are not home. And what will that be? You know, it's hard to get a babysitter these days. And if you don't like Anita, I understand. Once I'm done with my business deals, I will have time to change her and bring another person for you. And please quit the disturbance. I am working." Amiko knew that no matter what he said, her mother would never listen to him. From that day, Amiko became as stone as anything else. He never talks anymore, as every night, Anita always had her way with the little boy. One day in the shop, Ada sat and thought about the silent behavior of her son for the first time in a while. But she couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. A once cheerful boy is now feeling lonely and cold. He doesn't disturb her anymore. It keeps her wondering what could possibly be wrong. Later the day, Mr. Bisi came back from one of his travels, and in the room with his wife, Mrs. Ada, she brought the issues to her husband. "Dear, have you seen how quiet Amiko's been lately?" Mr. Bisi quickly decried the thoughts in a non-concerned way. "He's just being a good boy," he said. Ada's concern grew, increasingly each time she saw her son lying inside his room. She decided to ask Anita what was wrong. "Anita, what's wrong with my son? Why is he so cold these days?" Ada asked. "Don't worry, Ma. Amiko is fine. You don't have anything to worry about him." Anita said as she pretends to smile. Ada noticed something weird towards Anita. Her response, her smile, like as if she's forcing it and faking it at the same time. Ada decided to take matters into her own hands. If she can't be around all the time to check up on her son, instead, she would have extra eyes in the house. While she goes for one of her trips, she installed a hidden camera the night before the next day in the house that only she knew about. The next day, Mr. Bisi and Mrs. Ada prepared for the event that would take a 2-day trip, and they were about to leave. Ada came close to Amiko and gave him a mommy's kiss on the forehead and left. All through the trip, she thinks, what could possibly be happening now at my house? Is my son safe? These thoughts linger heavily in her heart, but she intends to find out when she comes back. After the event, in 2 days' time, they came back. After some wash-up in her room with her husband, Mr. Bisi, Ada decided to bring out the iPad that monitors the feed around the house she installed. As she goes through the footage, she was shocked at what she saw. in sorrow as Mr. Beasy came to her. "What is wrong, Ada?" he said, curious to know what is happening. Ada showed her what is in the footage as they saw Anita forcing their son to be intimate with her, making him do all sort of things. Mr. Beasy, disgusted and in tears by what he saw, became ashamed of himself for not being around for his son. Unable to hold her anger, she confronted Anita. "How could you do this to my son? What type of psycho are you, using a child like that?" Ada angrily said to Anita as she showed her the footage. Mr. Beasy went to the room and comforted Amiko, who cried heavily. Ada called the police that moment. Anita was arrested for child abuse and was sentenced to jail. Amiko was happy once again that his parents are back to him. Ada made out time for her son. Amiko, with time, began to heal from the trauma he had endured for so long. Ada, racked with guilt, stopped going to the shop more often and allow her salesgirls to take on the shop and look after things. Mr. Beasy had to cut of most meetings he normally attends, and they dedicated themselves to rebuilding their relationship with their son. They had to learn in the hard way that money and business couldn't replace the love and care a child needs. And as for Anita, the devilish maid, she was sent to life in prison, and she spent the rest of her life in jail. The moral of the story is simple. Always listen to those who come to you with their pain, especially children. Ignoring their cries for help can lead to more suffering, because you never can tell what they have in mind to say to you, and no amount of money or success is worth losing the ones you love, and also to be careful of what type of maids we bring into our homes to take care of our children. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you learned a lesson to be a good parent, to be a listening parent, not a parent like Ada and BC, who was only on business and forgot what always matters. And please, if you haven't subscribed, kindly be a part of my subscribers. Please click on the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, so when I post stories like this, you'll be the first to get them. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for listening to my stories. I really appreciate your support. And if you can still hear my voice, it means you watched the story to the very end, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I do not take your support for granted. See you in my next video. Bye-bye.